Good evening and welcome to the latest installment of the Fox 26 Sportstream as we're talking all things Houston sports. As always, I'm your host, Sal Manine, sports producer here at Fox 26. There's a few different ways you can get a hold of us on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, and of course on our website, fox26houston.com. Wherever you are, however you find us, we appreciate you coming along for the ride as the Astros are just getting underway at Minute Maid. It's actually a game week for the Houston Texans. They'll be traveling to Green Bay this weekend for preseason game number 1. We'll get into that. And it's also game night for the Houston Rockets. Game 2 at the Vegas Summer League. It's going to be 1 versus 2, as in number 1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons. And the guy who's been the breakout star after the first handful of games, your newest Houston Rocket, the 2nd overall pick, Jalen Green, trying to back up what was a very nice debut performance as he will lead the Rockets in just under half an hour against the Pistons in game number 2. So we'll get into all that as things roll along here, as it's going to be a start of a very busy fall creeping up on us as all the teams are back and things are slowly getting back to normal. What is not normal, though, is what's going on at Texans camp, specifically with the most important position of them all, that of quarterback. Yet again, Deshaun Watson, just as he was yesterday, was back on the practice field today, but he was just going through individual drills. He didn't go through any of the team activities. He left just like he did yesterday, left for a little bit, then comes back out with no pads on. And all indications are he is not going to be playing this weekend in the first preseason game. General Manager Nick Caserio was on Sports Radio 610 this morning, and he said he did not expect Deshaun Watson to travel to Green Bay, which certainly means he's not going to play. And then new head coach David Culley was asked what's up with Deshaun and his status for this weekend and the entire preseason. And he basically backed up what Nick Caserio had to say. So here's David Culley from earlier this morning as Deshaun Watson was on the practice field, did some work, but all indications are he is not going to be playing football for the Texans against the Green Bay Packers.
Day to day with him, and he'd been out for a while, and he was back today, and we're just taking it day to day as it has been from the start of training camp. He's unlikely to play in the game for sure, so we'll make a decision later on in the week as to what's going to happen with that. It's based off the fact that the limited reps that he's had in practice and that kind of thing.
Do you expect him to play at all this preseason?
No comment.
And so more of towing the company line, which again, if you're asked for anything more than what's up with Deshaun Watson, you get the day-to-day answer first, and then any kind of follow-up or further explanation, no comment. So the Texans are again stuck in this weird situation where they have a franchise quarterback who's facing quite a bit of off-the-field question marks, and everybody knows about the legal situation that is still playing itself out. Said franchise quarterback doesn't want to be here, even if he is allowed right now or in the future, whenever the legal stuff gets remedied. He doesn't want to be a part of the Houston Texans, and so they're still paying him. They can't fine him because he's there, but he's not going to play in the games. So it creates this very bizarre scenario for the Texans in terms of what they should do, what they can do, what they want to do. Nick Caserio was asked on the radio this morning if he's holding out hope. There have been some reports out there that, the Texans are wondering if maybe they can talk Deshaun into staying, or maybe as things continue to drag out further and he gets more resolution into what his situation may end up being outside the realm of football, that perhaps he does actually return to play quarterback for the Texans. But Nick Caserio dodged those and again said they're just taking it day by day and they will continue to make what they feel is the best decision for the organization. Now, if you are to believe the reports out there that nothing the Texans have been offered thus far in terms of a trade package for Deshaun is to their liking, you can count me in the camp that says you don't have to trade him right away. Like, we've gone through this circus now for a few weeks with the, Deshaun's there, but he's not really a part of the team, but he technically is on paper. You don't want to just sell him until you know exactly what's going on in terms of the legal situation. So barring new information or some type of criminal charge or something like that, you don't want to sell what is your golden ticket in terms of Deshaun Watson and having a franchise Pro Bowl quarterback who's only in his mid-20s. You don't want to sell that for pennies on the dollar. It's not like the Texans are one piece away from being a Super Bowl contender. I mean, they still up and down this roster have all kinds of moves that they need to make. So if you can continue to play the no comment, day by day, we'll see what happens game with reporters and fans and the rest of your team and everyone around the Texans, then there's no reason to just give Deshaun away right now. And then maybe if you hang on to him and eventually something is resolved in terms of his football status, his legal status, then maybe next offseason you can actually get the haul that you want for a quarterback who checks all the boxes that he does from a football standpoint. I mean, if you're the Texans, you're looking for multiple first-round picks and or multiple young, talented players who can come in and become impact starters right away on your roster. So it's not like if you give Deshaun away right now for a couple of low to mid-round future draft picks or veteran backups or something like that, it's not like that's going to completely solve your issues unless this really is a distraction behind the scenes, which, again, if you're to believe the Texans, they say it's not. So it's certainly an awkward position to be in, and for a new general manager, and Nick Caserio studied at the feet of Bill Belichick and the Patriots brain trust for so long. So that at least might give you some insight into how he at least looks at the football world. But making a trade just for the sake of making a trade may not ultimately be what's going to help you if you're the Texans. You're still probably at least 3 years away from really contending for a playoff spot or being able to actually make some kind of noise in the postseason. So if you can manage to keep up this song and dance with Deshaun and just what is going on with him, maybe you hang on to him. And once there is some further clarity with his legal situation, then maybe after the season or mid-season or somewhere down the road, you can get those 3 future first-round draft picks, and those are the kinds of building blocks you need to help rebuild your football team. As for who will be playing quarterback for the Texans this weekend, David Culley didn't get into any of the specifics about who's definitely going, who's not going, how much they're going to play, but no Deshaun means that you're almost assuredly going to see Davis Mills at some point. Of course, he was the rookie quarterback out of Stanford, taken in the 3rd round. Here's what Davis Mills had to say to reporters today after practice and how he feels things are progressing in his first NFL training camp.
A lot of it is just kind of getting reps. It takes time to learn offense, learn the new concepts. Obviously, I had a little rough patch of a couple reps practices where I want to improve on. Obviously, I had some turnovers, but I know protecting the football is the most important thing in the NFL. So I got to be better with that, and I think I've done well the past week or so at improving that. But, I mean, like I said, just getting better at every rep is the biggest thing. I mean, yeah, we're still early on in camp. Obviously, I'm still learning the offense, but, I mean, something that always stuck with me is the little quote, it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. So that's something I try to keep my head up and just continually improve.
Again, that was Davis Mills this morning. I'm not one of those ones who's after, we're not even through 2 full weeks of practice. I think today was practice 12 of training camp. I'm not one of those ones who's ready to, slam the fist down and make a proclamation on a rookie quarterback that this guy's definitely it, this guy's a bust, whatever the case may be. I mean, you read some of the things that come out about Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson, guys who were taken super high in the draft, and you can't really draw too much conclusions about them. One, it's just training camp, and it's the first training camp for a guy like Davis Mills. And what ultimately matters is what do they do when they actually play? So that's where you'll really start to get a sense of just what Davis Mills does or does not bring to the table. And even then, he's likely to only play maybe a handful of series, maybe only 1 or 2 series. Who knows exactly what the breakdown of quarterbacks is going to be, as again, it's a new world in terms of only 3 preseason games. So does that mean that the starters play more in the first 2, not at all in the third, or do you kind of scale things back for some of the vets? So regardless, it's going to be a small sample size for Davis Mills, but Saturday night in Lambeau will be your first chance to see just what this guy does bring to the table, what he still needs to learn, what he's still trying to grasp. Obviously, there have been mixed reports, as he just alluded to. He's had some bad days in practice in terms of throwing interceptions and looking like a rookie, but the last couple days, he's had some good days by his own admission and by that of his head coach, David Culley. So we'll all see what happens Saturday night when the Texans visit the Packers in Lambeau Field. All right, as for the Astros, I mentioned they are just getting underway. It's at the bottom of the second at Minute Maid, scoreless still, 0-0, as they're taking on the Colorado Rockies. Just a 2-game set. They play them tonight and then a getaway game tomorrow afternoon between Houston and Colorado. But we were expecting that perhaps Alex Bregman would finally be activated and be back from his lengthy layoff, basically 2 months since Bregman's been able to play for the Astros. He returned to Minute Maid on Sunday after playing over the weekend in Round Rock, but he is not yet activated off the injured list and not in the lineup. And here's what manager Dusty Baker had to say about that.
He's back for a few days because his 20-day rehab time is up, per the league. And so he's not quite ready. And so he has to stay off 5 days and then go back and try, to get ready again. Per the league rules, it's 20 days for a position player, max, and 30 for a pitcher, like Baez. And so then we'll see, hopefully, by the time we get back, from the time we get back on the road, he'll be ready.
Can you share with us what's holding him back?
No, just not ready.
Is it the quad or the hamstring?
Not ready.
I mean, he hasn't had that many hits that have forced him to run. Is that a part of it, like not seeing
No,
him
not
run?
really. Just he's just not ready. We don't want to happen to him like what happened to Springer. You know what I mean? Where you come back and then you got to go back on the DL again. This is something that we can't afford to happen, especially late this year. But that's all I can tell you. He's not ready.
Would you characterize it as a setback?
No. It's not a setback. Setback, you got to be back to have a setback. You know what I mean? So he was never back. So this is continuing on the route and the program that he was on.
So that was Dusty before the game today, and general manager James Click was also out during batting practice, and he offered a little bit more insight into just what Alex Bregman is working on, as they're expecting him to continue his rehab starting Friday is the first game that he's eligible. As you heard Dusty kind of explain there, you can't just, if you're a major league guy, you can't just spend infinite amount of time out on rehab assignment. So he had 20 days to get some rehab games in, then he has to take 5 days off completely, and then he can go back to continuing. So here's James Click from earlier this afternoon at Minute Maid Park.
He's just working on getting his timing back. He'll be fine. Ultimately, this was just a move that we had to make because of the way the rehab calendar works with Major League Baseball. So he's feeling great. I just talked to him. He's feeling great. We're just going to make sure his timing's 100% back. His legs are 100% beneath him. He's been gone for, I'm going to get the dates wrong, almost 8 weeks at this point. So when you're down for that long, sometimes it takes a little time just to get your rhythm back, get your timing in the box. That's all we're working on at this point.
So it's understandable if you're an Astros fan why you would be concerned, saying, well, every week you keep hearing, oh, he feels good, everything's progressing well. Alex has said things are going well, he feels good, and he's just inching his way back. But then you look at the calendar and go, well, it's been 2 months and you haven't been back there. But as Dusty Baker even pointed out, as we saw what happened with former Astro George Springer earlier this season. If you come back too soon and things aren't totally ready, you could re-aggravate something, and then you're down for the count even longer. So the Stros right now obviously still lead the division, still have the best offense in baseball. So that's why, and especially since they got Aledmus Diaz back from his lengthy stint on the injured list, they're going to try to take their time with Alex in terms of him coming back into the fold. Remember, Bregman told us a few weeks ago that if this was the playoffs, if they were playing a World Series game tomorrow, he'd be in the lineup and he'd be able to play. So the Stros have that luxury, but at the same time, things are not getting any easier down the home stretch here. I mean, the Astros entered the game tonight with only a 2-game lead over Oakland in the division. And if you actually take it a step further and look over their last 25 games, they've actually been playing sub 500 baseball, just 12-13 in their last 25 games. Of course, they've lost 6 of their last 8 coming into tonight, but that's really not the fault of the lineup or of the offense. The issue with the Stros and their struggles right now has been on the pitching, and specifically the starting pitching. If you look since the All-Star break, in 21 games, the Astros have gotten only 70 quality starts out of their starters. Their starters have combined for an ERA just shy of 5, and they're averaging barely 5 innings pitched per outing right there. Now, fortunately for Houston, the moves that they made at the trade deadline to bolster the bullpen have paid off, and guys like Graveman and Garcia have been big additions in terms of helping the Stros stem the tide. But the starters, which for so long is what propelled Houston to build this nice cushion, to really turn things around midseason, right the ship as some of their arms were starting to get healthy again, that's what was working for Houston in tandem with having the best offense in baseball. But right now, the starters are really struggling to get things figured out. And so you want to be playing your best baseball heading into October. So the Stros still have about 6 weeks to try to get everybody back on track, which is what they're hoping for. And as we've talked about all season long, you look at the American League, there's not a team like, say, the Dodgers over in the NL that you go, that's a real juggernaut. It's going to be tough to beat that team in a 5-game series or a 7-game series in the ALCS or something like that. You get in, and if you're playing your best baseball, you got a shot. But unfortunately, there's a lot of teams in the American League that all believe that. I mean, you have 4 teams in the AL East that are all vying for a playoff spot. And then in theory, you have 3 teams in the AL West. I feel comfortable saying I think the Mariners are finally coming back down to earth after what's gone on with them the last week or so. But again, the Athletics only trailed the Stros by 2 games. And so then if you fall into this weird spot where you're playing in that wild card game and you have to face perhaps a Boston or a Toronto who can just absolutely mash the ball, and obviously made a big move to get Jose Barrios at the deadline, the new look Yankees after adding some big lefty sluggers and have been playing really good baseball since the trade deadline. Now all of a sudden things get a bit more precarious. So for the Stros, it's going to come down to, as we've said since the beginning of the year, can the pitching staff hold up over the course of 162 games, and how do they best compile a way to get 27 outs on a night-in, night-out basis? So they're in the 3rd now, still scoreless at Minute Maid Park. All right, lastly, before we get out of here, the Rockets will be taking the floor in just about 5 minutes' time in Las Vegas. Again, Jalen Green against Cade Cunningham's the headline, but you saw a lot of impressive things from the Rockets rookies in their first Vegas Summer League game where they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers Summer League team. You got a double-double out of Alperen Şengün. You saw some flashes from some of the guys who had been there before. KJ Martin, again, showing impressive athleticism and defensive ability. Josh Christopher looked like a 19-year-old rookie at times, but also showed you why he was a first-round pick. But Jalen Green, far and away, was the best player on the court when he was on the court. 23 points, 4 of 9 from deep, finished shooting 50% from the field, only had one turnover, looked very comfortable out there. And he was scoring in a variety of ways, step backs, mid-range, getting into the lane. And what really sticks out is for a kid who, again, he's only 19 years old, played 15 games in the G League before the Rockets drafted him. He seemed very comfortable and like he belonged out there. And you hear guys talk all the time when they're making that jump from one level, college, or in the case of Jalen, you're going from high school to G League to now to the NBA. You hear guys talk about the speed of the game. And it's not just being able to adapt to how much quicker the NBA game is. And understandably, this is still just the summer league, so it's a lot different than when you're playing a team full of NBA players come the regular season. But it's not just how much faster the game is, it's knowing when to play at that speed and when to find your comfort level if you're a guard in terms of when to go, when to scale it back, when to attack. And that's where Jalen Green did not look like a 19-year-old rookie. And so if you're a Rockets fan, you have to be impressed by what you saw. And here's Jalen Green. This is from Sunday night after his first NBA game and how he felt out there finally being among the pros.
It was amazing. There was fans on the court. I was just happy to get back on the floor. I felt like I learned a lot in the G League. And I feel like up to now, my preparation, getting ready for this moment, is paying off. So I was excited. There was a lot of emotions before. I was a little nervous, but we went out and got the win. That's all that matters.
So obviously one game does not a career make, and certainly not one summer league game. So we'll see what happens tonight. And of course, we will have the highlights for you on Fox 26 News at 9. But so far, so good in terms of what the kid was able to show. And if he continues his progression and is able to replicate what he did in summer league game number 1 throughout his rookie year, then perhaps the Rockets are even a step closer to getting back to where they ultimately want to be, and that this rebuild, retool, whatever term you want to ascribe to it, may not actually take so long. So again, we'll have latest on the Rockets. We will have the Astros, more on the Texans tonight on Fox 26 News at 9. And we do unfortunately have to end on a somber note as we pass our condolences on to the University of Houston, and specifically to their track and field program. Former U of H star national champ Cameron Burrell, who is the son of UH head coach and former Olympic gold medalist Leroy Burrell, passed away at just 26 years old last night. No details in terms of what exactly the cause of death was, but far too young for especially somebody who grew up here in Houston, was a star at Ridge Point before going on to run for his dad and Carl Lewis at U of H, and ultimately reaching the pinnacle of his collegiate sport in terms of winning a national title, just like his dad, and still had Olympic aspirations and was training to continue to follow in the family footsteps. And so taken far too young at just 26 years old. All right, that's going to do it for this week. We will do it again next Tuesday night. As always, you can find us, fox26houston.com, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. For all of us here at Fox 26, I'm Sal Manine. We'll see you again.